India-Russia security and defense relations. Year 2017 was a breakthrough in bilateral relations for Moscow and New Delhi as both nations experienced impressive 22% growth in trade and boosted cooperation in a number of spheres ranging from agriculture to energy to pharmaceuticals. Earlier, Russia's largest oil producer, Rosneft, closed a $12.9 billion purchase of India's second-largest private oil refiner, Essar Oil, which marked one of the biggest foreign investments in India. But in the absence of widespread people-to-people contacts, trade, economic projects in the private sector, flow of tourists and students, a large and influential Indian diaspora, and given the handicaps of language, Russia does not affect most ordinary people's lives as does, say, the US or the Gulf region. Historical relations with India. The close ties of friendship, cooperation, mutual trust and understanding have deep roots. This is no mere rhetoric because India has received, earlier from the Soviet Union and thereafter from its successor state Russia, extremely valuable political, diplomatic and strategic support on vital issues affecting India's national interests. At crucial times, it was this country that consistently stood by us in international forums on vital issues like Kashmir and other matters affecting our territorial integrity and sovereignty. It was Soviet diplomatic backing and material support, and the confidence provided by the Indo-Soviet Treaty of Peace, Friendship and Cooperation, which enabled us to successfully undertake the Bangladesh operations in 1971. India was offered cheap economic credits for infrastructure projects, gratefully accepted and repaid in rupees because we neither had the capital, nor the technological know-how to develop them on our own, nor the foreign exchange to pay for them, reliable, affordable and good quality military supplies, also on credit, and large-scale supply of crucial products like oil, mostly via a swap deal with Iraq, fertilizer, metals, etc. India's first steel plant, Bhilai, was set up with Soviet assistance after the West refused to do so, or that some of today's globally competitive public sector companies like BHEL, ONGC and HAL were set up with Soviet cooperation. In Soviet times it was a truly strategic, if somewhat unequal, partnership. As the Soviet Union broke up, the whole edifice of trade and economic relations built up over decades came crashing down. Both sides scrambled to adjust to the new realities. While Russia struggled to cope with the wrenching shift from a state-controlled economy to a free market economy and from a centralized authoritarian regime to a multi-party democracy, India too embarked on a process of economic reforms. Political relations too reached a nadir during the Yeltsin era because the Russian leadership was too obsessed with the West and did not consider relations with India a sufficiently important priority. At a time when India-Russia relations were at an important crossroads, it was Putin who revived and steered the relationship in the right direction. Russia and India have changed enormously over the last 15 years since the breakup of the Soviet Union. After going through a difficult period in the early 1990s, both India and Russia have acquired a new self-confidence arising out of their rapid economic growth, large foreign exchange reserves, their respective strengths among others, of Russia as an energy superpower, and India as a knowledge superpower, and their sense of destiny. What is the mutual interest that sustains the India-Russia relationship today? A strategic partnership cannot survive on nostalgia, it needs substance. There is a complementarity of interest in important fields of cooperation such as oil and gas, defense, nuclear, space, science and technology, all areas that constitute Russia's core strength and globally competitiveness, and, reciprocally, areas where India needs foreign assistance and collaboration. Military cooperation is proceeding well because it is mutually profitable and beneficial. India finds Russian military equipment reliable and appreciates Russia's willingness to sell state-of-the-art equipment and engage in joint research and development of new products. With synergies arising out of the fact that India is an energy-deficient country and Russia an energy surplus one, energy is an increasingly important area for the future. The Indian investment in the Saklanai project is one but example. Russia, which is already helping India build the Kudankulam nuclear power plant and has recently supplied fuel for Tarapur, is also looking for a large share of the anticipated increase in nuclear energy projects in India if the Nuclear Suppliers Group guidelines are revised to accommodate India. However, in order to give a sound foundation and impart long-term stability to Indo-Russian relations, trade and economic cooperation, currently at a worryingly low level, has to increase and diversify. This is the most challenging task before the two leaders, because in both countries this is now a private sector-driven activity. India-Russia defense relations. To begin with, the much-admired Admiral Gorshkov was a modified Kiev-class aircraft carrier of the Russian Navy, originally named Baku. She was launched in 1982, and was in service from 1987 to 1991 in the Soviet Navy as Baku, and from 1991 to 1996 in the Russian Navy as Admiral Gorshkov. In 2004, she was sold to India and converted into STOBAR carrier now named INS Vikramaditya, still in service. Not only this, but Russia helped India get secured in its space technologies or domain too. India's first satellites, Aryabhatta and Bhaskara, came into fruition only with the technical help of Soviet Union. Although India-Russia defense relations have somewhat cooled over the last couple of years with the cancellation of an aircraft deal and continuing disagreements over one of their most prestigious defense projects, the co-development and production of the Sukhoi, HAL 5th generation fighter aircraft, FGFA, known in India as the Perspective Multi-Role Fighter, PMF. Yet military cooperation has historically been a major component and platform of Russian-Indian strategic interaction. Joint military exercises are the most important aspect of this. With India's accession to the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, new venues for cooperation will be possible. Indo-Russian Indra bilateral military exercise has for the first time involved personnel from all three service branches from both countries. Russia and India have held the Indra exercise since 2003. Russia will be a key contender in an upcoming tender for a new class of conventional submarines under the P75I project of the Indian Navy. India's plans to procure strategic defense equipment from Russia, including contracts of $5.5 billion for shipbuilding. Also, India has gone ahead with the procurement of the S-400 NATO Sa-21 Growler missile shield as well, which is sorely needed to seal the country's airspace with Pakistan and China given last year's Doklam conflict. Moscow and New Delhi also agreed on the import of Kamov Ka-220 light utility helicopters and collaboration in manufacturing of 4 Admiral Grigorovich-class guided missile stealth frigates. The two countries likewise seek stronger ties in the military sector. The Kremlin keeps its competitive edge and remains the largest supplier of weapons to the Indian market, nearly 70% of all its requirements. The 2017 calendar year was likewise marked by a rare feat. The Indian Defence Minister and National Security Advisor each visited Russia twice. Growing trade and new defence contracts combined with the personal friendship between Putin and Modi facilitate an impression of strategic bilateral relations. The Kremlin played a key role in facilitating New Delhi's membership in the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Moscow pushed forward India's membership in order to dilute China's dominance in the group. Its efforts likewise played a vital role in maintaining the Russia-India-China trilateral format, during which the nations reconcile on a mutually shared vision and responsibility for the future of the Eurasian continent. Now possibly why not Russia as before? For New Delhi, the anticipated shift will necessitate rational support for its independent foreign policy, which aims to diversify political relations while nurturing the goal of keeping India first. The latter is proven by India's participation in a November 2017 working-level meeting of the so-called Quad of countries along with Japan, the United States, and Australia to counter China's growing influence in the Asia-Pacific. As a growing power, India needs to find its ways to improve its weight in the world order, and it's unlikely that its historically pro-independence foreign policy will make an exception for the Kremlin. The US's positive stance. Washington's previous support for Pakistan has posed a serious challenge to India's geopolitical ambitions and the two nations' relations. In effect, the Trump administration's latest unexpected move to freeze aid to Pakistan could deliver positive vibes to India-US relations. New Delhi has a lengthy record of accusing Islamabad of supporting cross-border terrorism, claims that might find support in Washington considering its own criticism of Pakistan's poor efforts in combating terrorism. The China-US angle. Sino-India relations have been deteriorating for the past decades, while US-India relations have experienced improvement simultaneously. The White House supports New Delhi's claim for a permanent seat at the United Nations Security Council and its entry into the nuclear suppliers group, moves that are opposed by Beijing. The United States likewise is more keen on supporting India's pursuit for regional leadership in its opposition to China's ambitions in South Asia and the Indian Ocean, and has lots to offer in terms of trade and defense technologies. The latter is particularly appealing in light of India's quest to diversify its military suppliers. So it's time to rejuvenate the India-Russia partnership. Relations between India and Russia were upgraded from strategic partnership to special and privileged strategic partnership in 2010. 5 years after this upgradation and 4 years after the assumption of power by Prime Minister Modi, it would be appropriate to inquire whether the inherent potential of the bilateral partnership has been realized. Like greater than SHARE greater than subscribe.